You can't win FPL by picking the same players as everyone else. So whether you're trying to win a mini league full of boring managers, or you want to win the whole lot, here is a team with players you haven't even thought about until today. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan. Today I've got for you a differential team, a team full of players that not many people are thinking about that could make the difference between a pretty decent start and an incredible start. And believe me guys, this is something I do know about. A few years ago, I don't want to say almost won FPL, but I was ranked 12th by Gameweek 35. And although I did drop to around 240th, I did have a really strong start to that season. And I credit that to the fact that I was picking a few players that were very different to the crowd, and because of those players doing so well, it put me in a position where I was off to such a good start that pretty much nobody could catch up with me all season. Oh man, good times, but they're long gone now, but we can still think of some different players. Don't you worry about that. The game isn't completely boring and template. So guys, check out this team. I'm not recommending you pick every player from this team. That would be absolutely crazy, but there is definitely some good ideas in here. And what I want you guys to do is, if I can convince you on just one player in this team today, I want you guys to do me a favor and drop a like and subscribe to the channel. If I can convince you to put one of these players, 15 players in your team. So let's see what we have got for you today. So let's start off in goal as we always do. And we're going to go for Nick Pope. And this is a player that no one is really thinking about. No one's really considering, because they look at the first two fixtures and they think, I don't think I want to, play Nick Pope against Aston Villa and Liverpool in the opening two fixtures of the season. That sounds crazy. However, what you can do is, if you go for Dubravka as your backup goalkeeper, you have that Liverpool game in game week 2 covered, whereby Dubravka will play against Sunderland in that week. And game week 1, you could even play Dubravka against Spurs, who look like they're lacking a bit of firepower with potentially no Solanke, obviously no Maddison, Udogie's gone as well. They have some issues right now. Son has gone, they haven't replaced him yet. So there is actually an opportunity in game week 1 to cover Pope with Dubravka. And then after that, Pope actually has really good fixtures for a long time. Now, let's remember, Newcastle were the second best team for clean sheets last season. They got 13 clean sheets. Only Liverpool got more than them last season with 14. And Pope looks like he is going to be the main starting goalkeeper for Newcastle. They have been unable to replace him, and therefore, this could work out as a real ingenious strategy that nobody else really seems to be thinking of. But we'll move on to the next player anyway, guys, and we're going to have a look at Diouf. Yes, Malik Diouf, the new West Ham left back, and this is a really interesting player, and I'm going to pull him up on FotMob because we don't have any Premier League data for him yet. And by the way, guys, FotMob, completely free, really useful tool for checking out kind of players and results and things like that. I've left a link at the top of the description if you want to go check this website out or download the app. Super useful for doing your FPL stuff. But here is Malik Diouf. So as you can see, guys, on screen, he is primarily a left midfielder, but for West Ham, he is going to be playing as kind of a left wing back / left midfielder kind of player, but very advanced. He's listed as a defender in FPL at 4.5 million, and actually, judging by the friendlies, he could genuinely be even better than Wan-Bissaka. So looking at his stats from last season, and this, by the way, guys, is in the Czech League, 7 goals, 3 assists in 23 starts is absolutely incredible stuff. And we can also see his friendly matches down here. Against Bournemouth, he did get an assist in that game as well. And a lot of people were very impressed with him during that game. So this is definitely a guy who we want to be having a look at for sure. He looks really interesting. And I think if everyone is picking Wan-Bissaka, and it seems like they are, he is super popular, how can you make your team a little bit different? Well, what about going for Diouf and actually getting more attacking threat from your West Ham player that you would have in your team anyway? So a real easy switch for Wan-Bissaka owners if they're looking to find that cutting edge that really could make that difference in points. This is a super attacking guy. Our next defender here is going to be Romero. Now, Romero had 7.97 defensive contributions per 90 last season for Spurs. That is the best out of the Spurs defenders last season. And I know that doesn't sound super high. You need 10 to get the defensive contribution points for your FPL player. But that was playing for a Spurs team that was hyper aggressive, hyper attacking, and not really doing very much defending at all. Now, under Thomas Frank, we are going to see that Spurs are defending a lot more. Take for example, Brentford last season, where Thomas Frank was managing. Collins Nathan Collins, 9.5 defensive contributions per 90. That was the 8th best in the Premier League. So if we see Romero, who is already a defensive contribution, kind of defensive action kind of guy, playing in a Frank system where he's doing more defending, I think he is going to be one of the best players for defensive contributions over the course of the season. Plus, we have these great fixtures to start the season off. This makes a lot of sense as a pick, yet nobody is talking about him because they're either going down to 4.5 Van der Ven or up 5.5 to Pedro Porro. This could be the cheat code. And also, Romero, we have to remember, had some injury problems last season, but the season before that, he scored 5 Premier League goals, which is incredible stuff. Again, he was the top scoring, goal scoring defender for that season. So we've got a goal scoring defender who's going to get bags of defensive contributions with great fixtures, and yet nobody is picking him. This is a differential to go for, guys. And our final defender in the starting 11 is actually going to be O'Brien. And this is maybe a little bit more controversial, but he did get 2 goals in 17 assists last season, which I think is actually very impressive. And I think that's something that people don't really realize, that O'Brien has a bit of goal threat. He really, really does. Maybe even more so than a player like Tarkowski. He should be nailed under Moyes at right back. And although he won't get the same kind of defensive contributions as Tarkowski, though he should still get a few, what I really like is his what we've seen from him before. So again, we're on FotMob, guys, so we can check him out. And you can kind of see some of the areas he is taking shots from. We can go goal by goal. These shots in the box, primarily from corners, you can see here, guys, from corners, taking those shots, being that target man in the limited minutes he had. Obviously, he's going to be nailed on now, but was a little limited. But then we can actually go back to the previous season. So if you look at Ligue 1 in the previous season, and we can see here, look at this. 18 shots, 4 goals, 3.57 XG, and 15, again, were from corners. So we're looking at a guy here who is really, really high. If we look at the ranks among defenders, in Ligue 1, we saw that he was incredibly high on these shooting metrics, which is really, really useful stuff to kind of know here. Aerial duels won 98%, goals 70, top 26%, I guess. So yeah, this is really good stuff. And by the way, this was in limited games for Lyon as well. So not super limited as in last season, but this is not like a 50 game sample size. He's getting a goal pretty much probably every 8 games, which is, I think, really, really good for a defender. That is kind of what we want to see. 4 or 5 goals in the season for a defender is absolutely fantastic. So like the look of him, and at 5 million, a little bit cheaper than Tarkowski, he genuinely could be a little different player you could go for if you're trying to trim your budget somewhere. But I want to move into midfield anyway, because we're going to start off with the data-backed Ismaila Sarr. We can go over him pretty quickly, I think, because we are a bit more familiar with him as an FPL asset. No one's really picking him this season. His ownership is currently 2.3%. So very, very different to the crowd, I guess, here. But he actually got 10.82 XG last season. So underperformed his actual goals, which was 8 goals, by almost 3. So that does suggest that if he can finish a little bit better this season, even finish at an average level, we're looking at like 11 goals this season, which is really, really nice stuff. He also got 6.82 expected assists with 7 assists. So worked out about right on the assist factor. But if he can kind of start picking up to the best levels of his XG, then this could be really, really nice. Of course, the opening game is against Chelsea, but they now lack Colwill. Nottingham Forest after that, who we're not expecting to be as good this season. And of course, we go to game week 4. You've got Sunderland at home there, which is the best fixture he'll have all season. So that's a really, really nice opportunity there to go against the crowd, try and figure out something different, and go for a data-backed player who maybe has more average fixtures rather than a player who maybe has good fixtures but much more average data. Just going to put that one out there. By the way, Sarr, comparable output and actually better data than Eberechi Eze last season. So how about that? Our next pick is going to be Wilson, 5.5 million. Now, he got 6 goals and 2 assists last season in just 12 starts. Well, with just 12 starts. He was out of favour early season, then played very well. Then he became a starter. Then he unfortunately got injured, but he was back again as a starter for 4 out of 5 of the final games of last season. He got a goal and an assist for Wales back in June. That was against Belgium, so double returns against Belgium, and a goal against Liechtenstein as well for his international team. He's also played 2 friendlies for Fulham since then. He got 2 goals against Forest in a friendly, and he got another goal against Al Ittihad in a friendly. He's also a set-piece specialist, taking those direct free kicks. Very, very good in that regard. So there's a lot of good stuff about Wilson. There really, really is, but it's all about those minutes. Are you prepared to take a risk on his minutes to see what he can produce? If so, then he could be a really nice rotation kind of midfielder for you to go for on your bench sometimes, starting in other games as well. Could work out quite nicely. Let's keep it moving, guys. And we have next got Arias. Now, he's already scored on his debut friendly, by the way, and he looked really good in that game. That was against Girona. But anyway, let's head over to FootMob again for this guy, because obviously new to the Premier League. If you've watched the Club World Cup, you will know that he was one of the best players in the tournament, actually made the team of the tournament whilst playing last season. And yeah, he is a set-piece specialist, penalty specialist, expected to be the main talisman for Wolves this season. We're optimistic. 1 goal, 4 assists in 12 games in the Brazilian Serie A in 2025. But, you know, in a better team, could he do even better? I guess we'll have to see. But it's not the worst rate. For a 5.5 million midfielder, if he can get an attacking return every other game-ish, then that's going to be very nice. But if you use him as a rotation player, play him in the good fixtures, then that could really boost you. I think a lot of people put off by Wolves players because of that opening game against Man City. But, you know, if you're willing to go for someone like Strand Larsen at 6.5, why not Arias at 5.5, who's going to be taking the set pieces, who is going to be very, very involved in everything that Wolves do? This is a really, really promising player. It really is. And I think we're all going to be talking about Arias at some point in the season or another. It's just a case of whether you can maybe bench him in game week 1 or maybe even play him against Man City. It wouldn't be the worst idea, considering Man City have had, you know, the Club World Cup. A lot of players are injured or unavailable right now, apparently. So yeah, it's interesting stuff there. And our final midfielder is going to be Shrewsbury Hall. Dewsbury Hall, sorry. He's a bit of a speculative one, to be honest. He played 1,816 minutes last season, which is more than I thought. You know, it seemed like he was just rotting in the reserves for Chelsea, but he played a lot in the Conference League, actually, in which he got 4 goals and 3 assists throughout the Conference League. He also scored at the Club World Cup, which is pretty nice, and could be good for defensive contributions. He's going to be playing as an attacking midfielder, presumably for Everton in the new season. Decore playing in that position got 8.38 per 90 defensive contributions. So there's still going to be a possibility there for defensive contribution points, but it's going to be his creativity and his shooting, which is what will really provide that value for 5 million. Now, don't get me wrong, we're not expecting Salah level returns from Dewsbury Hall. He is 5 million. He's a very, very cheap guy. But if he becomes nailed on at Everton, and I think he has a very good chance of that happening by maybe game week 2, I think that he is certainly going to be a very interesting player that very, very few people are picking. We're well under 1% on Dewsbury Hall owners at this point. 5 million, guys. That is so cheap. If you can downgrade one of your midfielders to him, that is going to allow you a big upgrade elsewhere. And again, that could be the difference between an average start to the season and a very good start to the season. It's not just about having Dewsbury Hall. If Dewsbury Hall can match some of the 6.5 million midfielders and you've freed up 1.5 million to upgrade another player who is now doing really well for your team, then that's another way you can kind of gain points there. Let's look at the forwards here, guys. And we're going to go... These players are semi-differential, I suppose. Evan Nilsson, 2.5% owned, 10 goals and 5 assists in 28 starts last season. Slight underperformance on his XG of 12.47. So actually, you know, again, if he can get back to average level shooting, then he is going to indeed, or at least the goalkeepers are making less saves, because that can impact your actual output versus XG. If he can get closer to that, and we expect he probably will, then that's going to be much, much nicer indeed. If he was to get, you know, 13 goals, 5 assists in 28 starts this season, I think a lot more people would be talking about him. But anyway, he is actually 5th for XG per 90 among forwards last season with 0.48, and that's without penalties. If you take away penalties, you know, he is going to be matching the likes of Haaland, Isak, and Watkins, certainly. Whistle would still be a little bit ahead of him, but you know, he'll be getting very close to the likes of Haaland, Isak, and Watkins. With if those players didn't take penalties, of course they do, and we have to factor that in. But it's still very interesting that we're looking at the 5th best forward for XG per 90 here, and only 2.5% of managers are selecting him. And we know why. It's because of Liverpool in game week 1. But if you can cover game week 1 with maybe one of your defenders or a cheap midfielder just for game week 1, then suddenly game week 2, you've got a Bournemouth team who have phenomenal fixtures. By the way, Bournemouth haven't lost any of their players in their attack. It's only their defense that has seen some transfers out. This could be a really, really genuinely interesting pick that people are ignoring because they're only looking at game week 1. FPL is so much longer than that. Just go from him game week 1, leave him on the bench, and reap the rewards later on. Our next forward is going to be Raul Jimenez, fresh off the back of 3 goals in 6 games for Mexico in the Gold Cup, where they lifted the trophy. He actually scored in the final against USA as well. 13 goals and 3 assists in 30 starts last season, 0.43 XG per 90. And by the way, that is better than Welbeck and Strand Larsen at the same price. So better XG per 90 there. Penalty taker as well. It looks like Muniz is maybe out of favour at Fulham, maybe getting a move elsewhere. And therefore, Raul Jimenez could be good for minutes. And I think for 6.5 million, a goal or assist every other game is perfect. That's exactly what you're looking for. So again, why are people ignoring him? I don't know. You tell me. And finally, we're going to go for Igor Thiago here at 6 million. Yeah, interesting little punt here if you want to go for him. But actually, Brentford have some okay fixtures. They've got Sunderland in game week 3, for example. Igor Thiago is going to be the new main starting striker for Brentford by the looks of things. And if Brentford can do well this season, and that is a bit of a mystery, then this is going to be a real bargain. Like, again, we are not expecting Thiago to match you know, Haaland or Watkins or something like that. But again, if we're looking for those cheap players who will be big difference makers, then he definitely has the potential to do that. I think there's a solid chance that if Wissa leaves, Thiago could be the penalty taking man as well. He just needs to get a bit of service. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with him. But I certainly think he is an underrated shout at 6 million. We've got some bench players here as well, guys. Going back to Bournemouth, we've got Petrovic here. Again, if you were going for Petrovic and Dubravka, you can always play Dubravka against Spurs. I think that works fine. After that, I know Bournemouth have lost a lot of defenders, but they have some really nice fixtures, as we mentioned, with Evan Nilsson. So the data models, by the way, guys, actually have Petrovic as the best 4.5 million keeper for projected points over the first 6 game weeks, which, considering their game week 1 fixture, is actually quite impressive. So if you can cover him for game week 1 and then play him after that, I think he could be a really, really nice, cheap goalkeeper to go for if, again, you're trying to cut the budget somewhere and gain points whilst doing so. We've got Pape Matar on here as well, guys. Really nice fixtures for Spurs. He's just 5 million playing as a midfielder. And yeah, again, 1.9% selected, really differential. We can check him out on FOTMob because I think what's really interesting that we can check out here is his recent friendlies, where he's been playing as an attacking midfielder. Scored against Arsenal in that 1-0 game. Really high rating there, 8.4 rating for him. Against Wycombe Wanderers, 2 goals there. And again, was the star of the show. And really, before the Newcastle and Bayern game, obviously the Bayern game was pretty poor for Spurs. He was, you know, the star of the show. And I think a lot of Spurs fans are saying that Sarr has been their best player in pre-season, and he's a 5 million midfielder, and he's been playing as an attacking midfielder in the Spurs team where there's no Maddison anymore. Obviously, Kulusevski's still injured, so Sarr has been playing as attacking midfielder. And if that's going to continue, and if Spurs don't look like they're going to sign a new attacking midfielder, and it looks like they're prioritizing a winger actually before a attacking midfielder, then actually, is Sarr the new attacking midfielder for Spurs? I'm not saying for sure, but I think he maybe suits the profile that Thomas Frank is looking for. And Thomas Frank has been very complimentary about Sarr as well. So wanted to put that one out there as a real nice, another nice 5 million player that people aren't picking, people aren't talking about. And he could potentially match some of these 6.5, 7 million midfielders. And at the same time, you're freeing up all of that budget to take, you know, this could mean you move like and die down to Sarr, and then suddenly you can upgrade your Strand Larsen up to a, you know, a Joao Pedro or something like that, or you can move your maybe a Morgan Rogers up to a Florian Wirtz. So, you know what I mean? The money can go a long way in Game Week 1. It really, really can. Other players here, we've got a couple more defenders. Anderson, we have spoken about him a little bit before, to be fair, but he is Fulham's best defensive contribution guy. Actually, Fulham defensively underperformed last season. They were the 5th best defense in the Premier League on underlying stats, but somehow only kept 5 clean sheets, which was a big anomaly. So we're expecting better from them this season. He didn't get any attacking returns last season, but he got 2 goals and 3 assists the year before. 9.65 defensive contributions per 90 last season. That is the 6th best last season among defenders, and a 44.8% defensive contribution hit rate. So he's going to be getting defensive contributions pretty much every other game, which is a really strong rate among defenders. And he is just 4.5 million. Crazy stuff. It really, really is. And a final player here is Goodmanson. Looks like he is going to be an attacking left back. We can look at on FotMob for him as well. Let's have a little look at him. You can see actually playing pretty attacking and actually taking a lot of shots. Took 18 shots throughout the season, but always these long range shots. And he is a set piece taker as well. He can take some free kicks. He can take some corners. He's certainly been doing so in the preseason. We can see some of his stats here. Expected assists, kind of in some of the higher percentiles for those kind of numbers, and for goals here as well. Shots. Plenty of shots, volume shooter, range shooter. You never know when these kind of things are going to go in. We can also have a look at some of his traits. Again, we're going to see shots attempted very, very high there. So he's a shot taking, set piece taking left back for just 4 million for Leeds, who I think are going to be the best defense of the 3 newly promoted teams, judging by what I've seen from them. So there's a lot to love here. There's a lot to love. So there we go, guys. Those are all of my players that I want to talk to you about today. And like I say, have I convinced you on any of these players? Do any of these players make your team now you've learned a little bit more about them? Have I convinced you on any of them? If so, drop a like and subscribe. That's the deal that we made at the start of the video. But of course, guys, if you want to check out FotMob, please do check out the link at the top of the description. They got a website, they got an app, they got everything you need there. It's completely 100% free as well. So there's no harm just, having that app to just check out different things, particularly useful for checking out friendly matches, for checking out all of the data for players from last season or even into the new season as well. It's really, really a diverse app that provides a lot of stuff, and again, for free, which is really, really handy as well. So definitely recommend checking that out. And yeah, I've left that link down below for you guys. But thank you for watching once again. If you want to check out another video from FPL Mate, please do feel free to go and do so. Like, subscribe if I helped you out at all today, and we'll be back tomorrow for yet another video. See you later, mates. Bye-bye.